Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're doing well and are having a flare-free day. In today's video, I thought that I would dive straight into the term medical gaslighting. I heard a lot about medical gaslighting, but I didn't know exactly what it was or how I could potentially be impacted by it in my endo journey. But I realized that I actually had experienced it. I just didn't know what the term meant. So I'm gonna dive into it today and provide some tips and tricks to help navigate the system if you are experiencing some medical gaslighting in your endometriosis journey. So if that interests you, then please keep on watching. Okay, in order to understand what medical gaslighting is, we need to dive deeper into what the term gaslighting means. Now, gaslighting is a term that's described as making someone question their own reality. It's a way of manipulation, so making an individual question their memories or their perception of what's going on, or their pain or their emotions. It's a way of manipulation, and it can often be seen as emotional abuse. It was actually coined in a 1938 film called Gaslit, and it was basically, the premise of it was a husband was making his wife question her perceived reality. He tries to steal jewels from the family house, and she notices things, but he doesn't want her to state what she sees to other people. So he uses the gas lights to cause the lights in the house to flicker. And he says, you know, you're imagining things, the lights aren't actually flickering. And he uses this technique of using the gas lights in the house to call her perceptions fake. So based on the play's success, the term gaslighting was actually used as a definition going forward in popular culture, where it was described as emotional abuse or basically making someone question their own lived reality. Gaslighting is still seen in a lot of relationships, friendships, professional relationships. It carries a lot of weight with it, and it is a very serious way of emotionally abusing someone. So even though it's a medical context that I'll be talking about, I don't want to take away from the term itself and the weight that it carries in other potential environments. Okay, so taking the general term gaslighting and providing it to a medical context, it basically is the description of a patient going into a doctor's office or a GP or a medical practitioner and stating their pain, but having that professional downplay their symptoms or pain. They make the patient question their own lived experiences or make them question their pain or the realities that they're feeling every day. Oftentimes it is associated with psychological factors, so stating that, you know, the pain's all in your head, you know, the fatigue and the drain that you feel, it's actually related to a mental illness like anxiety or depression, instead of focusing on other symptoms that might be caused by a serious chronic illness or disease. It's basically dismissive behavior that makes the patient question their pain, makes them question the normalcy of their pain, makes them question their lived experiences, and can oftentimes create a disconnect with the amount of time made with a proper diagnosis, because the patient waits and says, nothing's wrong with me. The person I'm supposed to trust has made me feel as though my pain is not worth investigating further. There are different ways that medical gaslighting can present itself, and these are not an extensive list whatsoever. Medical gaslighting can be played out very overtly, so it's very clear that it's medical gaslighting, and oftentimes too it can be downplayed and it can seem as though it could be medical gaslighting, but at the same time you're like, maybe it's not. And these are some ways in which you can identify medical gaslighting terminology in your own experiences going to the doctor's office. So one example is downplaying or disbelieving your symptoms. So specifically with endometriosis, one main reality of medical gaslighting is the statement, painful periods are normal, which it is not. I grew up with the statement of some individuals just suffer with bad periods, and it was a dismissive behavior that caused me to be overlooked for other things like endometriosis, adenomyosis, PCOS, all of these major chronic illnesses that exist, but the normalcy and the downplaying of the symptoms had caused me to be delayed in getting a diagnosis. Another example is not taking the patient seriously. So oftentimes this can be associated with the term hypochondriac, which is basically an individual that overly worries about their health or overly analyzes, pains and aches. And it is a very serious anxiety disorder, which still should be investigated further if you do suffer with this. So oftentimes that term is associated with something that's going on in your brain instead of actual physical symptoms that are happening based on another chronic illness. Another way to see medical gaslighting is rushing through treatment options. So this is something that might be downplayed a little bit and may not be seen as overt gaslighting. But if you're in a medical appointment and you go in and say, you know, what are my options for this, for treatment, and they rush through it or say, I don't have the time to go over all the treatments right now, or go over one or two, and you know that there are an extensive list of options based on your own research, that is another avenue of which medical gaslighting can present itself. A major one that happens is diagnosing without testing further. So oftentimes individuals go into an appointment with aches, pains, severe symptoms, and a diagnosis is made based on previous history, which might be helpful in getting the step in the right direction for seeing a specialist. However, if the testing stops there of, you know, this is your diagnosis and that's what I call it, and there's no more testing needed or no specialization needed to look further into it, that's a problem that needs to be addressed. Another avenue of medical gaslighting is making a patient feel unheard. So again, in an endometriosis environment, when you're going in to talk about pain that you're experiencing, a lot of the times we do a lot of research on our own end. We say, you know, this really matches what I'm experiencing. And oftentimes, again, it's associated with some individuals just have bad periods. It's just normal period pain, or all this, you know, you feel like your symptoms and the information you're presenting is not being heard and not being taken seriously for an actual chronic illness. Again, going in with dismissing of diagnosis and treatment, another avenue could be that they refuse to refer you. And that is a major red flag. If you come across a medical practitioner and you ask to be seen by a specialist, or you ask for a second opinion that you can be referred to, and they state no, that is a major red flag. I want to state to you, in your endometriosis or adenomyosis PCOS journey, you are entitled to ask for a second opinion if you feel like you're not being heard, not being taken seriously, and your pain is not being addressed with the right next steps in front of you. You should never be met with, you're not allowed to see anybody else but myself. It's just not a good practice to have, because you want to make sure that you're doing everything that you can to protect your body and your health. And that can sometimes come with seeing someone else that actually identifies the pain that you're experiencing. Another avenue of medical gaslighting is withholding extreme side effects from prescribed medication. So if you're seeing a doctor and you're prescribed new medication and you are met with read the side effects at home or read the symptoms at home, that is another way of which medical gaslighting can present itself in a very nuanced way. Another way of medical gaslighting, and again, this sometimes happens because chronic illnesses and diseases can be very complex. So sometimes we are diagnosed with something and in fact it is something else. It can get our foot in the door with getting answers and treatment, and it does happen. Doctors and practitioners are human, and the science may not be out on different diseases, and more research needs to be done on things. But one avenue of medical gaslighting that can present itself is wrongfully prescribing treatment for something that you do not have. Medical gaslighting can sound like a bunch of different things, but some examples within your endometriosis or adenomyosis journey could be: 1, painful periods are normal. 2, some individuals just have bad periods and you're one of the unlucky ones that has it. The pain that you're experiencing is not real, it's in your head. You don't have XYZ, so it can't be that. You're missing one symptom, so it can't be that. You identify as a certain gender when in fact the disease impacts the other gender, and so you don't have it. Another way is you're a certain race and that illness or disease only impacts a certain race, so you can't have it. That's a major issue. If you lose weight, your symptoms will disappear. It's not XYZ, so no further testing is required, and that's an issue if you haven't done any previous testing to discover that you don't have XYZ. Everything is fine. In my endometriosis journey, I didn't know what medical gaslighting was. I didn't go into this full depth of information when I was researching my own pain, but over time and doing the research, I have discovered that I have experienced medical gaslighting throughout my endometriosis journey so far. I was met with dismissive doctors. I was met with, again, that term of some individuals just have bad periods and you're one of the unlucky ones. And no further testing was done. No further investigation was done. Every time I went back in to see that same doctor about the same pain, I felt like I was dismissed. And it really did do a detriment on receiving information and resources and support and a name to the pain I was experiencing. And it took me 11 years from stating that pain to the doctor to now that I've now started my endometriosis journey. I'm now in the process of surgery and getting support and pain management, but it took 11 years, and I want to tell you that medical gaslighting is real and it happens, and it's not a reflection on you as the patient. You know your body best. It's just a poor reflection on that specific individual that is practicing medicine. I also want to state that this is not a reflection on the whole medical industry or every single doctor in the world. I've met so many amazing medical practitioners and doctors in my endo journey recently that I wish I met earlier, but they exist and they are real and they know your pain and they identify that pain and they make you feel heard and seen. And again, it's not a reflection on the whole medical industry. It's just individuals that are in it that might still be providing medical gaslighting, and it's a sad reality that we oftentimes have to go through. And specifically with an invisible illness like endometriosis, it can be very difficult to get the moving parts in motion. And just like any form of abuse or trauma, it can leave the patient feeling victimized, and it can feel as though your experiences and pain isn't real. But I want to tell you right now that I see you, I hear you, your pain is believed, your pain is real, your experiences matter, your voice matters, the journey that you're on matters, your health matters, and it's not a reflection on you, it's a reflection on the poor practice of medicine from that individual that should be providing support and resources for patients in their journey. If you do recognize any of these warning signs for medical gaslighting in your current journey, I know how hard it can be to find a new doctor, specifically when we're dealing with chronic fatigue on top of other symptoms. It can be very, very hard and very nerve-wracking to meet someone new because, again, we don't want to open the door to another person that's going to gaslight us, and that can be hard in the journey. But I promise you that it can be a real detriment in your health journey if you keep consistent with the doctor that's not believing your pain. And I truly know how hard it can be to look for other individuals to hear your pain when you've dealt with medical trauma and gaslighting in your past. It can feel as though, okay, well, I'm going to leave this doctor, but I'm scared to find another one that's going to do the exact same thing. And I can't promise you that that's not going to happen, but what I can promise you is that if you keep putting one foot in front of the other to find someone that listens to your pain, I promise you that your journey will feel easier. It will feel like as though you're supported in the medical system. You can feel like you're not treading water anymore. You can have your feet land in sand as someone in the medical system is now fighting on your behalf. There are people in the medical system that will believe your pain, and I know how much energy and time and dedication it takes to find that one individual, but they exist and you deserve that individual in your journey. Please, it matters so much for your health. And if I could state one thing to someone watching, it's please don't wait 11 years to have a name to your pain. I don't know what that impact has had on my own body. I don't. And that's the hard truth. And I wish that I would have had this answer earlier and it would have made my journey better and it would have had support and resources and a name to my pain. But if you're watching, I know how hard it can be. I know. But please do not wait to find someone that listens and validates your pain, because the longer you wait for answers and resources, the harder it can get, and the harder it is, and the more alone you feel in your journey. And I feel, after 11 years, I feel less alone because I have that resources and support, but what a relief it would have been to have that earlier. So if I can provide any advice to someone watching, please, you deserve better than what you're getting if you're seeing all this in your journey. With that, I hope this helped, and please share your experiences down below. This is a safe space to share your experiences and your journey, and I will talk to you on the next one.